Hello everyone, this is part 5 of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Leaves Konoha, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Naruto paused in mid-step, his eyes narrowing behind his mask. Something felt off. Whoosh. Naruto spat out a curse as he ducked under a rush of flame, the fire passing harmlessly over his head before dying out moments later. Suddenly the nozzle where the flames had erupted from swung around and was now aiming at Yugito. The former Cloud Kunoichi let out a hiss as she too dropped low to the ground, the fire singing her right cheek, as in her worn-out state, she did not move as fast as she would have liked to. Son of a bitch. Naruto openly cussed. Annoyed, he looked for the source of the inferno, and saw what looked like a mounted mechanical device of sorts. Hinata's lavender eyes widened in horror, as the turret now aimed at her and Nell, whom she promptly scooped up into her arms before going into a spin and shouting. Hakushu Kaiten. 8 divination palms of the hand, heavenly spin. The little girl let out a happy squeal, as they spun round and round. This is fun. The fire bounced harmlessly off the already formed chakra dome, ricocheting into a nearby tree, slightly singeing Daisuke's backside, as that had been the tree he was hiding behind. The large man yelped in pain before he dove for new cover, while holding his smoking ass. Despite the dire situation, Naruto managed a grin at this sight. Karma really was a bitch. Deprived of its original target, the flame shooter focused on Naruto once more and he growled, as he rolled to the left, avoiding the scorching heat sent his way. The blonde Jinchuriki threw a kunai with an explosive note at the flame turret with astonishing speed, blowing up the devious mechanism. Unfortunately, 5 others rose up from the ground just as Hinata's spin slowed to a halt. The Hyuga girl's eyes widened, as the dome faded away. She was wide open, and everyone knew it. Cursing inwardly in anger and realizing the danger not only to Hinata but to Nell as well, Naruto flashed some hand signs and called out. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Multiple shadow clone technique. Each Naruto clone then raised a palm and began gathering chakra into it. Soon all of the gloved hands radiated a blue light which seemed to grow with intensity. As the blonde clones concentrated, each one began to mold the chakra into a fast rotating sphere. Once completed, each clone held a powerful Rasengan before all of them simultaneously shunshed to a different turret and slammed the powerful jutsu into them. Immediately, each turret exploded in a spray of fiery shrapnel in every direction. Hinata looked on in awe as Naruto destroyed all of the flame guns in one swift motion before she then heard a small whirring sound heading towards her and Nell. Hinata didn't even have time to react to this new threat. However, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her and caught the odd spherical mechanical device square in the middle, halting whatever its functions might be. A second later, his giant Zanbakuto was in his hand and in one smooth motion he cleaved the device in two. Naruto paused to survey the scene, smoke rising from the shattered guns. Looking to Yugito, he arched an eyebrow as she sprang to her feet. You okay? The blonde Kunoichi grunted in response, then stalked over to the nearby tree to drag Daisuke out of hiding. Whilst she did this, Naruto suddenly turned on Hinata, his eyes sparking dangerously. Why didn't you tell me about the freaking fire? All the while, Nell was clapping happily and yelling. Again, I wanna spin round more. Hinata wilted under his cold gaze and the demonic voice his mask carried, looking away sadly, upset in having let him down, whilst Nell was still chattering eagerly. I didn't see it. Roughly yanking off his mask, she saw the confusion on his face. You didn't see it, she nodded. Not until they popped out on their own. Irritated, he sheathed his blade, but was not willing to let the matter go just yet. Were you using your Byakugan before we were attacked? Reluctantly, she nodded again. Yes. As if flipping a switch, his anger boiled to the fore, and she froze as his eyes turned to red slits, veins now popping out of his head. Then it's your fault Nell almost got hurt. I guess 3 years of living the pampered life as Inuzuka royalty has dimmed your skills. Naru-kun, a soft voice called out from below. Naruto looked down at Nell, just now realizing that his adoptive daughter heard everything he had just said. Innocently, she stared up at her father and asked. Naru-kun, are you mad at Hina-chan? Anger still plastered on his face, along with a light red blush now, he did the only thing he could think of. With a loud shout, he stalked off, heading in the direction of the hideout, with Yugito, now dragging a protesting Daisuke in tow. This left Hinata standing in place, before she knelt down and gathered Nell into her arms. The little green-haired Arrancar looked to Hinata and then to the fading silhouette of her surrogate father as he disappeared into the forest. Hina-chan, is Naruto okay? Hinata sighed sadly, both from realizing though Naruto now knew the reasons behind her marriage to Kiba, he still bore some bitterness and resentment towards her over it. That coupled with the fact that she had likely lost Naruto's trust now by not detecting the dangers sooner. It was not going to be an easy road to get back to where she and Naruto once were, but Hinata would not give up. She would honor her promise to give him time to heal. He's just upset with me. The little girl frowned and asked. But why? You didn't do anything bad to him. Our lavender-eyed Hyuga smiled sadly at the confused girl in her arms and softly replied. I did do something bad to him a long time ago. Nell-chan and Naru-kun just need some time to forgive me for it. I hope. Naruto carried Nell in his arms, refusing to trust anyone else with her safety at that moment. After the debacle of the traps they had encountered earlier, to say Naruto was upset was a mild understatement. He was furious, judging by the look in his eyes glinting out from his mask. The subject of his anger was the beautiful lavender-eyed girl walking beside him to his right. One Hinata Hyuga. He could not believe how careless she had been, in not seeing those traps quicker even with her Byakugan activated. Nell could have been seriously hurt back there because of Hinata's lack of attention. A lack of attention brought on by not keeping up her shinobi skills and instead playing the part of a pampered clan matriarch. And Nell getting hurt because of someone else's carelessness was something Naruto would not tolerate from anyone. Even if that someone was a girl he may still be in love with. Hinata hadn't said a word since Naruto took Nell from her and they began walking down a long corridor. She knew Naruto was deeply upset with her and she didn't blame him one bit. Hinata felt horrible that her lack of focus could have gotten any one of them seriously hurt or possibly even killed. She didn't understand. Why hadn't she seen those traps until they popped out on their own? Her Byakugan was activated at that time. She should have seen the traps well before that. The only conclusion she could think of was perhaps she had been paying more attention to Nell than to the possible dangers around them. The thought of Nell getting hurt because of her negligence left the Hyuga heiress feeling very guilty and dejected as she silently thought. I should have been paying attention. Yugito too had remained silent as they all walked down the corridor. She knew Naruto was very upset with the Hyuga princess, as Yugito had silently dubbed her. Looking over towards the obviously dejected indigo-haired girl, Yugito couldn't help but smirk at the forlorn face the girl now bore. Yet she herself hadn't decided yet if she wanted something more. More than just friendship with Naruto, who was the same as she. The possibility of such a thing constantly nagged at her, and the voice of the Nibi, the two-tailed cat, constantly purring to her inside her mind to take the blonde vessel of the Kyubi and claim him as a mate was not helping matters. Shut up, you stupid cat. Yet still it nagged at her, her brow furrowed in thought, her lovely face tense in concentration. I wonder if he went through the same hell I did. Did he run from his own village, when they chased him down, howling for his blood? Was he subjected to the constant jeers, discrimination, and abuse on a daily basis? Were you stabbed in the back, by those you held close to your heart? She felt her heartbeat quicken a bit, a light blush flushing her face pink as Nell piped up. I want Yugi-chan to hold me. Naruto shook his head as Nell reached out for the Nibi vessel, pining to be held by her because Naruto wouldn't let Hina-chan hold her. No, not right now. Naruto tersely barked. One thing that Yugito did know was that if she did decide to pursue something more with Naruto, the Hyuga girl was definitely competition for her in that regards. Unfortunately, Nell would not give in, and was whining loudly now, her small voice heard loud and long, reverberating off the corridors of the narrow hall. Waaaaah. I want Yugi-chan. Staring up at her father, she jutted her lip out in a pout, tears forming in her bright eager eyes, now pitifully sad. Please. Looking from Yugito to Nell, Naruto was torn. Could he trust her with his daughter, or would she endanger her like Hinata had? Yugito looked over her shoulder now, and ever so briefly her dark, doe-brown eyes locked with his. A light blush lit her face, his own visage hidden behind his mask, hiding the dark look in the shadows of its narrow confines. Breaking the stare, Yugito halted in mid-step, moving back a pace, until she was side by side with her fellow blonde. She looked down to Nell, the little Arrancar holding her arms up, clearly wanting to be held and trying to squirm out of her father's grasp to get to her. In response, Naruto loosened his hold on her, an unspoken message in his eyes, which now commanded the attention of his fellow Jinchuriki. Loud and clear was his point. If she gets hurt, you're gonna get it. Yugito didn't say a word. She just reached down, and gently scooped up the wriggling girl and was rewarded with a happy squeal, as Nell clapped her hands with glee. Why? Naruto did his best to ignore the small gasp from Hinata, as he knew that must hurt her, but he could not deny his daughter her happiness. Daisuke, Naruto's acting liaison to the bandit gang Crimson Blades, was still rubbing his ass, which had been scorched by one of the traps they all had first encountered. He was currently wondering what the hell he had gotten himself into by tagging along with this very dangerous blonde shinobi and his female companions. This guy is hardcore. If I piss him off, I'm gonna get my ass handed to me. Daisuke was snapped out of his train of thought when said shinobi rounded a corner and ordered everyone to stop. As Naruto gazed down the final corridor, he spied a simple-looking wooden door at the end. Looking around at the walls and ceiling of the hall, he did not notice anything out of the ordinary. They had not encountered any more hidden traps for some time now, and he wondered why. The answer was simple. Either they were at the end, or they were being lulled into a false sense of security. Turning to Hinata, he curtly ordered to her. Hinata, activate your Byakugan and scan this corridor and focus this time. Hinata winced at Naruto's tone and implication but nodded her head and activated her famous Kekkei Genkai and scanned the hallway. After a moment, she turned to Naruto and said, I don't see any dangers, Naruto-kun, it appears to be safe. Famous last words. Yugito muttered before a cold glare from Naruto told her to keep quiet, whilst Nell said that wasn't very nice. Alright everyone, stay alert, it appears to be safe, but you never know. Naruto stated the last part warily, before casting a glance at Hinata and began walking down the hall, occasionally looking over his shoulder, eyeing Nell, who was happily nestled in Yugito's arms. As the group made their way down the corridor, Hinata kept her Byakugan activated. She swore to herself that she would not let Naruto down again no matter what. When their party had reached the halfway point of hall, Hinata suddenly sensed two mechanisms emerge from the walls behind them. These devices looked more seamless than the others, which were bulky and clunky, and that meant trouble. She saw that they were aiming at Naruto and Yugito, and her eyes widened. Without hesitation, Hinata leapt forward and pushed Naruto and Yugito to each side of the hall while yelling as the machines opened fire. Naruto-kun, Yugito-san, look out. Yugito cursed as she saw a beam of energy shoot by where she had just been, dropping flat to the ground, covering Nell with her body. Glancing over to Naruto, she was surprised to see him shielding the two of them with his body, before he whirled around and threw two kunais with explosive notes attached in different directions behind them. Naruto's aim was true to the mark as each kunai hit their targets and each machine exploded in a blaze of orange and yellow. Turning back around to check on his daughter to make sure she was alright, he then ripped his mask off and yelled at Hinata, his face twisted in fury. Damn it, Hinata, I thought you said it was safe. The last word of Naruto's angry question dying in mouth, as he now saw Hinata lying bleeding and unmoving on the floor where he had just been a moment ago. So, you wish to obtain a blade to slay a demon, is that correct, young Sasuke Uchiha? High Lord Kuchiki. Sasuke contritely answered, while kneeling before the former 13 Gote captain out of respect. You may address me as Byakuya-sama Uchiha-san. Now, I was not aware that during this time period in the world of the living that you were even aware of hollows. Hollows? I do not understand what you mean. Are hollows what you refer to as demons? Sasuke asked in confusion. Hollows are a race of creatures which are born from human souls who, for various reasons, do not cross over to the beyond after the death and stay in the human world for too long. They are corrupt spirits with supernatural powers that devour the souls of both living and deceased people. I still don't understand. Hollows are former deceased human souls that lose their hearts to despair or remain in the real world for too long. Any spirit that is not guided to the beyond by a Shinigami via a soul burial may eventually descend into a hollow. Sasuke contemplated what he had just heard intently. It would seem that these hollows Byakuya had described to him were similar in some ways, but also different in others from the Biju demons he was talking about. However, one thing that disturbed the Uchiha was that hollows are formed from human beings who have lost their hearts to despair, just like Naruto had. Sasuke thought he may need the sword even more now because if that was true, should he be forced to kill Naruto he would need to perform this soul burial ritual in order to save his friend from becoming one of these hollows. I might have to kill Naruto just to save him. Kami, what kind of cruel joke are you playing on me? Sasuke thought with derision. Sasuke's thoughts was interrupted when Byakuya asked. Are hollows the demons you wish to kill? And no, Byakuya-sama. The demons I speak of are called biju or tailed demons possessed within a person's. The demons themselves are known by the number of tails their body carries, which also signifies how strong they are. Ancient scribes tell that these biju were once all part of an even greater entity known as the Juubi or 10 tails. They also tell that the first ninja, the legendary Rikudo Sennin, did battle with the Juubi and split its power into 9 individual entities using his Izanagi jutsu. I seek a blade capable of destroying one of these biju, if I'm forced to. I believe these biju you describe are definitely a different type of demon than the hollows. However, a Zanpakuto should still be able to dispatch any supernatural demon regardless of its type. What is a Zanpakuto? A Zanpakuto is the type of blade you seek, which will kill a demon. Hi, then that is what I want. Were you anyone else I would refuse your request. However, I am bound to honor the blood pact made between the Kuchiki and Uchiha. Wait here and I shall return shortly. I thank you, Byakuya-sama. Sasuke watched closely as the Kuchiki patriarch left the room. A few minutes later he returned and handed over to Sasuke what looked like just an ordinary katana blade to the Uchiha. Sasuke studied the blade carefully as he held it before Byakuya spoke once more. What you hold there, young Uchiha, is the Zanpakuto my first lieutenant Renji Abarai wielded during his service to me. It is a powerful Zanpakuto and should be sufficient to achieve the task you desire. He no longer needs the blade. Sasuke asked in curiosity. No, he was one of the noble fallen during the Arrancar War. Byakuya solemnly replied before adding. Renji Abarai was the finest first lieutenant to ever serve for me. Something I regret not letting him know of during our time together. So I'm entrusting his blade to you with the hope that you will wield it with honor as he did. I promise, Byakuya-sama, I shall hold you to that, young Uchiha, for if I hear different, I will seek you out and I will be most displeased. Sasuke remained silent, but knew that was not an idle threat. Now to begin the training with your Zanpakuto, you will first need to achieve Shikai, which is the initial release of the blade's second form to what you now hold. To activate it, you will need to learn the name of your Zanpakuto. This is not as easy as simply picking a name, as the living spirit of the Zanpakuto already has its own name. Therefore, you must be able to communicate and harmonize with your Zanpakuto effectively, which requires being able to speak to the spirit within its world. Once this is accomplished, then we can begin your training to achieve Bankai with the Zanpakuto. Byakuya explained. I see, Byakuya-sama, I had no idea that I would need such extensive training to use this weapon. Unfortunately, my time is limited and I need to be able to wield the blade effectively to either save or destroy my friend when the time comes. Byakuya stared intently into Sasuke's eyes, looking for any sign of deception. After a minute he finally spoke and said. I can teach you to achieve Shikai in a short amount of time. After that, you will have to learn to unlock Bankai all on your own. I understand, Byakuya-sama. Very well, I shall begin by telling you the Shinkai name of your Zanpakuto. Its name is Zabimaru. X. Nell saw Hinata lying on the ground with blood starting to pool around her and screamed in a panic. Hina-chan. Naruto immediately rushed over to Hinata, followed by Nell wriggling out of Yugito's hold, the poor child in tears, as she looked upon Hinata. As Naruto began checking over Hinata, he found she was alive but unconscious. Whatever that beam of energy had been, it had gone clean through Hinata's shoulder and out the other side, leaving a solid hole in her arm. However, her shoulder was bleeding quite heavily, as Naruto tore his sleeves off his arms and attempted to pack the wound. Seeing that this was doing little good, Naruto ordered Daisuke to carry Hinata and threatened the man with death if he dared drop her, whilst Yugito resumed carrying the now weeping Nell. Once they had done this, Naruto then ordered him to follow him as quickly as possible. Drawing out his Zanpakuto, Naruto then charged down the remaining distance of the hall at blinding speed, slicing through one turret after another that rose out of the floor before him. When the final obstacle was removed, he crashed through the wooden door ready to take on Kami himself, if that was who was waiting for him on the other side. Looking about the room quickly, he spied a wizened old man, clad in a white kimono, with a long white beard sipping tea at a table. The old man looked at the blonde warrior standing before him, then at the ruined door, and commented with amusement. I would have opened the door if you had knocked. Who are you? Naruto growled, in no mood for formalities. The old man eyed the giant blade in Naruto's hand and chose to speak again. Well, since I see you carry my former student's Zanpakuto, allow me to introduce myself. Rising from his crossed-legged seating, he gave a small bow to the blonde. My name is Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto. It was at that moment Yugito came rushing into the room holding Nell, who was still crying in her arms, followed quickly by Daisuke with Hinata in his. Naruto quickly sheathed his blade and took Hinata from the bandit, and looking pleadingly to the old man asked. Hinata-chan's been hurt, can you help her? Yamamoto noticed the hole in her arm and nodded. I can see that, yes, I can help the young girl. He looked to a nearby long table and ordered. Bring her over here. Yugito winced as she watched Naruto carry the Hyuga over to the old man and noted to herself that Naruto had referred to Hinata with a suffix now. Nibi also took notice of this and was screaming at Yugito in her mind to hurry up and claim the blonde before she lost him altogether. Yugito shouted back for Nibi to shut up and let her think as she watched the old man's hands begin to glow while he pressed them onto Hinata's wounds. A few seconds later, the blood pouring from the wounds ceased, and Naruto looked on in amazement, as they began to close and heal almost instantaneously. Yamamoto looked up with an aged smile. Your young lady friend will be fine now. Her injury has been healed, but it will take time to replenish the blood she lost. Follow me, we'll take her to my room where she can get some rest. Naruto nodded and ordered the others to stay behind, as they would be returning shortly. Nell, who was still crying, stubbornly refused and wanted to go with them to make sure her Hina-chan was alright. Yamamoto eyed the little Arrancar warily, before quickly deducing that she was no threat, and picked the sniffling child up, almost like a grandfather would, and said, Now, little one, I promise the young woman will be fine, she just needs some rest. Ah, really? Nell sniffled, while rubbing the tears out of her eyes with tiny fists. Yamamoto nodded before he took the green-haired child over to a small chest, and pulled out toy fox plushie doll out for the distraught orphan, who immediately took the orange plushie in her arms, and squeezed it tightly. Now, if you promise to stay here, and promise to be good. He paused, as if thinking. Then I'll give you some ice cream and sweets, would you like that, little one? The mention of sugary treats helped to soothe her nerves, and Nell reluctantly agreed and began playing with her new toy with Yugito. While this happened, Naruto carrying Hinata left the room with Yamamoto. A few minutes later Naruto returned and introductions were made before everyone sat down at the table while Yamamoto served tea before sitting down himself. I apologize for your friend's injury, I take it one of Zabuza's traps was the culprit. I'm not surprised, he did hide them quite well. Yugito shook her head as she sipped her tea, swallowing before speaking. It's not your fault she got hurt, Yamamoto-san, the Hyuga princess was careless. Naruto stiffened, but she ignored him. She should have seen the traps no matter how well they were hidden. Yugito quipped this last part, while she drank her tea, earning a glare from Naruto telling her to shut up. Yamamoto tilted his head to one side. What do you mean? Naruto coughed before speaking coldly. What she means, Yamamoto-san, is that Hinata-chan is from the Hyuga clan of village hidden in the leaves. They possess a unique Kekkei Genkai, which grants her clan extra sensory perception. This also gives them penetrating sight and telescopic vision within 360 degrees. Naruto spread his arms in an all-expansive gesture to encompass the entire room, as he said this. He then shot an angry glare at Yugito, before speaking again. So what Yugito-chan is saying is that no matter how well Zabuza hid his traps, Hinata should have seen them. Naruto hung his head as he said this, a faraway look in his eyes. The old man shook his head and stated regretfully. I'm afraid you're both mistaken. Naruto's head snapped up, and Yamamoto received two odd looks from both blonde Jinchuriki, as he went about fixing Nell her promised ice cream, which she was practically dancing with glee upon receiving her favorite flavor, chocolate. I've heard of the famous Hyuga clan and know all about their abilities, and so did my pupil Zabuza. He went to great lengths to shield his traps from several of the vision-based Kekkei Genkais that exist in this world. His tone saddened as he went on, whilst Nell eagerly spooned the cool desert into her mouth. I'm afraid no matter how hard that girl used her Byakugan, she would not have been able to see the traps until they had sprung. Yamamoto stated this with absolute certainty. This revelation was like a slap to Naruto's face, as he realized that he had angrily blamed Hinata for almost getting Nell hurt because of her carelessness. Now he felt sick to his stomach, upon learning that his former love had not been at fault in any way whatsoever. A feeling of anger and guilt at himself surged through his mind. While he was thinking how much of an idiot he was, Naruto heard Yamamoto say to Yugito and himself. What I can't understand is why she got hurt. Zabuza set his traps to target the most powerful chakra sources, and while that young woman is indeed strong, I can sense that both of your chakras are much more powerful than hers. He looked him over with a cursory glance, before scratching at his bald head, deep in thought before commenting. I would have thought you two would have been the first targets, so why did it attack her first? If it was possible, at that very moment, both Naruto and Yugito realized that Hinata had sacrificed herself in the corridor to save them from any possible injury or perhaps even death. The feeling of guilt that washed through them was immeasurable in their minds. As Yugito contemplated why the Hyuga girl would save her, and Naruto thought what a fool he had been. Yamamoto spoke up once more, the riddle left unsolved for him. Well, that's a mystery for another time. Now, he turned his full attention to Naruto. Now, I see you carry Zabuza's Zanpakuto with you. I take it you are the chosen one. In a rare moment of confusion, Naruto tilted his head to one side, confusion upon his chiseled face. The chosen one, Yamamoto-san. The old man nodded sagely. Yes, the one who Zabuza said he would send to me to unlock the full power and potential of his blade. Something even he was unable to do. Shrugging, Naruto rolled his large shoulders, whilst Daisuke listened intently. I guess that's me. Zabuza's spirit from his blade spoke to me and asked me to seek you out, Yamamoto-san. The trace of a smile tugged upon the sage's face. Well, if that's the case, then he has indeed deemed you worthy and able to do what he was incapable of. Scratching his head, Naruto spoke another question. What's that? Yamamoto's eyes narrowed, all business now. To achieve Bankai for your Zanpakuto, Naruto. What is Bankai, Yamamoto-san? Yamamoto held up one finger, a serious smile upon his face. Ah, in that lies a story. Nell happily clapped her hands, a look of intense curiosity all over her face. Yaaaay. Ttory time. Yama-ji is gonna tell her to re. Nell was spared a kindly look by Yamamoto, who was amused at being addressed as Yama-ji. Bankai, or final release, is a state of being for your Zanpakuto that once achieved, can increase its power several times over. Naruto nodded. Okay. Yamamoto chuckled. Ah, I see you are a fast learner, much like Zabuza. Before Bankai, there is the form of Shikai, which means to release, while Bankai means to release again. This Zabuza was able to achieve rather easily. Naruto unsheathed his blade, briefly looking at the wickedly large Zanpakuto. So I don't have to worry about Shikai. Yamamoto nodded. However, you must first pass a series of trials by one of my protégés to make certain you truly are worthy to wield such a power, before we can begin the true training for Bankai. Sheathing his blade, Naruto sipped the last of his tea and set the cup and small plate down with a small clank. I understand, Yamamoto-san. He took a deep breath, gathering himself before speaking again. When must I begin my first trial? Snapping his fingers, a dark hole appeared behind the man, creating a light breeze, as it stretched into darkness. We can begin with the first trial right now if you would like, Naruto. The blonde bowed in respect. Thank you, Yamamoto-san. I would like to begin, but there is something I must take care of first. I need to speak to Hinata-chan before I start. May I have a moment? The elder smiled in understanding, waving away the portal with another click of his fingers. You may go speak to the young girl before we start. I'll keep your friends entertained until you return. Naruto bowed respectfully to the old man and then hurried out of the room to see and speak to Hinata. Upon reaching the room, he silently sat on the bed she was lying on. Her breathing was peaceful and steady, yet he feared that she would not awaken from her slumber. Quietly, he called her name. Hinata-chan. Hinata's eyes flew open at the sound of Naruto's voice, and when she realized he had used a suffix with her name for the first time since they had reunited. Looking up to his face, she noticed a sad look to his eyes. Fearful that someone had gotten hurt because of her carelessness once again she hurriedly stammered. Nah, Naruto-kun, is everyone alright? Okami, Nel-chan wasn't hurt, was she? I'm sorry, I didn't see the traps again before they sprung. She hung her head, and her tone was filled with despair, as she feared the worst. I don't understand. I feel so stupid and useless. She looked up at him now, tears glistening in her eyes, those lovely pale lavender orbs. You must hate me. I know I hate myself. When Naruto heard those words from Hinata, he pulled her into an embrace and hugged her tightly, much to her utter shock and amazement. He brought his lips close to her ear, and so no one but her could hear, whispered. Hinata-chan, I could never hate you, and I never want to hear from you that you hate yourself. Hinata's lavender eyes softened, as he went on. Everyone is fine thanks to you. You saved us back there. I feel like such a fool for the way I treated you. Pulling back, he noticed the absence of a blush. I was cruel, and for that I apologize. I must have hurt you greatly. She shook her head insistently. It's alright, Naruto-kun. Naruto heard Hinata so easily forgive him and asked in confusion. How can you still love me after all this time, Hina-chan? I'm no longer worthy of being loved anymore. I've changed so much since we were last together. Look at way I've treated you, even though I now know the truth of why you married Kiba. I still can't seem get past the fact that you did, and I feel such anger and bitterness over it. And because I couldn't let go of that anger and bitterness, you were hurt because of it. I will always love you, Naruto-kun, no matter how much time has passed between us. You may think you aren't worthy of being loved, but you're wrong. Nel-chan loves you as you are, and so do I. Any pain I have suffered or felt is nothing compared to the pain I inflicted on you 3 years ago. Tears began to swell in Hinata's eyes and began streaming down the fine features of her face. I'm so sorry for that, and I hope one day you can forgive me. The last 3 years have been torture for me, especially not being able to be with you. It's not a question of forgiveness, Hina-chan. Naruto replied before sighing and continuing on. Knowing the truth now, there's nothing to forgive, but you have to understand, I had given up on my feelings for the past 2 years. So, it's difficult for me to find them once more. His eyes hardened now, yet his tone remained kind as he looked to her. As you can see, I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago, and you may find you won't like or even love the man I am today. She shook her head rapidly, and for just a moment, he was reminded of when they were kids, as she insistently argued with him yet again. I said, don't care who you think you are now. You are and always will be my Naruto-kun. He visibly stiffened, noticing the emphasis on my as her hands, smooth and soft, touched the rough stubble of his cheeks, as he had neglected to shave in the past few days, her smooth fingers running over his rough face, leaving him paralyzed, unable to move. Instinctively, his body screamed at him to shove her away, yet with a supreme force of will he quelled the desire and instead focused solely on her words. Your feelings still exist within you, they're just buried. She smiled warmly as Nell's laughter was heard from outside the room. It would seem that Yamamoto was making good on his promise. But I know they still exist just by seeing how you are with Nell-chan. I can see the love you have in your heart for that little girl, and she's absolutely adorable. Looking down, she realized the truth of the words she had just said, now fearing that she had gone too far in saying that he was her Naruto-kun. And if you are unable to find any room in your heart for me, that's all right. Looking pleadingly at him, her tone was soft and loving, pure innocence, not a trace of dark or evil within her. Just know that I will always love you no matter what, that I will always be here for you. Naruto pulled back from his embrace to look at Hinata's tear-filled eyes and saw nothing but the love this girl has for him. At that moment, he came to a decision, one that had begun brewing ever since he realized how much Hinata had sacrificed in her life for him. Hinata. He decided that he not only wanted but also needed Hinata to become a part of his life once again. Such unconditional love, surpassing all boundaries, no strings attached. He was certain that he would never find it again if he spurned her feelings for him. Leaning towards her, his eyes drifted closed. I'm sorry. Then, for the first time in many a year, he captured her lips with his own, his rough and dry lips, firm against her soft and smooth. Her eyes widened inexplicably, as his lips moved to cover her own. Yet the tension lasted for but a second, before she practically melted into his arms, and allowed herself to enjoy the kiss. After a minute, he pulled away from a now breathless Hinata and smiled for the first time in a long time and said, I think I can find some room in my heart for someone else besides Nell, Hina-chan. Hinata sobbed into his chest in happiness as they embraced once more and held each other tight. Meanwhile, a certain pink-haired kunoichi was making her way through the forest in her own attempt to reconcile with Naruto. After stopping by a large tree, Sakura flopped to the ground in frustration as she thought to herself. Damn it, Sakura, you are completely lost in these woods. Why didn't I think this out more carefully? I was in such a rush to leave and find Naruto, I didn't give any thought as to how I was going to do it. With a groan, she checked herself for cuts and bruises. I have no idea where to go find him. I should have asked Kakashi-sensei if I could borrow Pakken to sniff out where Naruto is. The moon was high in the sky now, nearly full, lighting all in its pale glow. There really was no point in heading back. Well, it's too late now. I guess all I can do is get out of this abominable forest and try to find a town. If I'm lucky, maybe someone will have some tracker dogs I could get. Just then Sakura heard a twig snap behind her. Grabbing her kunai and pressing her body against the tree, she could sense someone was approaching. At the last instant, she jumped out, only to be tackled by something large, white and furry. When her attacker decided to lick her face, she heard a familiar voice call out. Did you get her, Akamaru? Sakura, still pinned under the weight of the large dog, yelled out in response. Yes, Kiba, Akamaru got me. Now you want to call him off, please. Once Kiba came upon the scene, he saw whom Akamaru captured and, helping Sakura off the ground, sheepishly apologized. Sorry about that, Sakura. Akamaru sniffed out someone he knew and I thought it was somebody else. I didn't realize it was you. Shooting the mutt a small glare, she rolled her shoulders in a shrug. That's okay, Kiba. Truthfully, I would much rather it was Akamaru tackling me to the ground than you and your wandering hands. Sakura jokingly said before adding, with a confused expression. Why are you two out here anyways? Kiba's smile disappeared and the tone of his voice had an edge to it as he replied. I'm looking for my wife. Sakura blinked, more confused now than ever. Hinata, why is she out here? Kiba's expression hardened and he spat with bile in his voice. She left me a few days ago to go after that filthy bastard blonde teammate of yours. Sakura resisted the urge to punch the Inuzuka in his disgusting mouth for referring to Naruto in such a way. However, the news that Hinata was also in pursuit of Naruto and had several days head start on her was not good news as far as Sakura was concerned. Sakura knew of Hinata's long-standing love of Naruto and could claim him for herself if she got the chance. Sakura looked at the Inuzuka heir, or more specifically his partner Akamaru, and realized they were the answers to her current problem. Akamaru could sniff out Naruto's trail, and if all went well, maybe she could beat Hinata to reaching him first. Sakura was broken out of her train of thought by Kiba, who asked, Why are you out here, Sakura? Hastily, she made up an excuse. I'm on a mission for Lady Tsunade. She wants Naruto found and returned as soon as possible. Kiba looked to the left and right. So she sent you. Where's your tracker dog? Yes, she sent me. Lady Tsunade felt that I was the best candidate to talk Naruto into returning since we've been friends for so long. Now it was her turn to chuckle sheepishly. As for my tracker dog, I kinda lost him. Say, Kiba, since we're both out here and you say Hinata might be with Naruto, can I join you and we'll try to complete both our missions together? Kiba thought about it a moment before looking back at Sakura and saying, I guess that will okay. It would be safer for the both of us to stick together. Plus, if Hinata is with Naruto, maybe you can help convince her to return home. He bared his fangs, as he said the last part. It would be better for Naruto if you did. What do you mean, Kiba? The look on Kiba's face changed to something feral and his voice was dripping with venom as he replied to Sakura with, Because if Hinata is with Naruto and she doesn't return home with me, I'm going to kill the both of them. Then, as if nothing was said, he smiled brightly at Sakura. Come on, let's get moving. Sakura gulped to herself and wondered who it was she had just partnered up with, as the man before was not the Kiba Inuzuka she remembered. Sasuke was quite surprised to find a campsite off the roadside. Even more surprised to see that it was Ino who had set it up. Ino, what are you doing? Inquired Sasuke, as he hopped off a tree, arching an inquisitive black eyebrow, whilst the blonde let out a surprised gasp, dropping the firewood in her arms, the light of the moon shining down upon the two. Sasuke. He nodded. That'd be me. Care to answer the question? Her eyes narrowed as she saw the blade strapped to his back, a blade of the purest white. First, tell me what you're doing out here. Sasuke's response was simple as he sat down on the log. I'm looking for Naruto and I'm guessing you are as well. Ino hid the small smile on her face. She could use him to help track down Naruto and offered to the Uchiha. Then why don't we team up? Tsunade shook her head in frustration, as she read over the report. So now Sakura, Ino, and Kiba have left as well. Hi, Hokage-sama. Shizune hesitantly answered, a bit anxious of her master's reaction to the news. The buxom blonde Hokage slammed her hand down onto her desk and growled out in annoyance. At this rate, I won't have any shinobi left in the village, what with all of his friends going after the blonde Gaki. Which will only give more ammunition to Danzo and the council who are crying out for his blood. I'm not sure you can call Sakura, Ino, and Kiba friends of Naruto anymore, Lady Tsunade. True, they all may rue the day if they do find Naruto. Tsunade cryptically commented, before pulling out a sake bottle and ordering Shizune that she did not want to be disturbed for the rest of the evening. Naruto stood resolute before the portal, Hinata's hand held tightly in his own. He watched as the portal began to widen from a mere pinprick, to eventually a large ominous dark hole the size of a cave mouth. Hinata gulped at the sheer darkness of the expanse that even her Byakugan could not pierce before a reassuring squeeze from Naruto's hand to her own calmed the former Hyuga heiress somewhat. So, what exactly is on the other side of this thing? Yamamoto raised his shoulders in a shrug. All I can tell you, Naruto, is that your first instructor awaits you on the other side and do not underestimate him. He may seem like a lazy fool, but he was also one of my first students. Naruto unsheathed his giant blade, while releasing Hinata's hand ever so slowly. Before shoving his blade point first into the floor to free his hands as he suddenly wrapped Hinata into a fierce hug while giving the Hyuga girl the most passionate kiss she had ever experienced in her young life. A kiss that left Hinata breathless and the room spinning in her eyes as he pulled away. Nell just asked what that was, and when told that was a kiss and being the inquisitive child turned to a very disgruntled Yugito and a rather amused Yamamoto to explain what a kiss was to her. After the explanation was given, Nell looked to her adoptive father and asked, so does that mean Naru-kun isn't mad at Hina-chan anymore? Naruto smiled and bent down to his daughter, ruffling her mint-colored green hair, and answered, no, little one, I'm not mad at Hina-chan anymore. You be a good girl while I'm gone, okay? Okay, Nell replied, as Naruto kissed her cheek before rising. Naruto then reached for his blade, and when he hoisted it over his shoulder, he heard a voice whispering its way through his mind. Soon, Naruto, you and I will be one. Bearing this in mind and steeling himself for the worst, Naruto put on his mask and stepped willingly into the unknown darkness and was abruptly flung out the other side, landing roughly while stumbling and falling flat on his face, as he staggered forward. With a small shiver and an irritated growl, he righted himself and took in his surroundings. Naruto found he was now on the beach of a small island surrounded by the pounding surf of a sea. The island was of your typical tropical variety with a lush jungle populated by many palm trees and other indigenous plant life. He noticed a small shanty-type shack standing at the edge of the jungle line and scratching his head, he pulled off his mask and shouted loudly. Oi, anybody here? A calm voice replied, almost immediately. You needn't shout. Naruto looked to right of the shanty hut and noticed a man lying in a hammock strung between two palm trees. Walking towards the man, Naruto was able to see the person in the hammock more closely, who in return eyed the blonde as he approached. Naruto took note that the man in the hammock had gray eyes and long wavy brown hair, which was tied in a long ponytail and also has long bangs that framed the left side of his face. He also wore very distinctive pinwheel hairpins that appeared to be very expensive and had thin facial hair around his mouth and on his cheeks. The clothing of the man consisted of wearing a straw hat called a sacket and a pink, flowered lady's kimono, which he had draped across his shoulders and over the same type of uniform Yamamoto had been wearing. Rising groggily into a sitting position and letting his sandaled feet hang loosely over the edge of the hammock, the man asked while trying to stifle a yawn. And you are? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I was sent here to receive training for my Zanpakuto from the protege of Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto. Are you that guy? The man gave a small nod before jumping off the hammock and bowing down, while sweeping his arm in front of him introduced himself. Shunsui Kyoraku at your service. Naruto then noticed that Shunsui had two types of swords strapped to his body, a tachi and a wakizashi blade. The cross guards of the blades are rectangles, with the corners cut off and decorated by a pattern of cherry petals and lines, as each sported a dark blue handle. Both swords were sheathed through Shunsui's waist tie at his left side. Yet, while Naruto studied Shunsui, the former Gote captain did likewise and focused his eyes on Zabuza's blade that Naruto carried. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips, as if in memory before he commented. So, you're here to finish what Zabuza could not. You mean this Bankai thing, right? Naruto asked, as he shouldered his Zanpakuto's massive weight with relative ease. Shunsui chuckled and gave a small nod before his expression hardened, as he drew out both of his swords and set the two blades against each other in a cross before declaring. But first, you must prove your worthiness. Alright, so what's this test? It's simple really, you need to kill me before I kill you, that's all. That doesn't seem fair, you've already got this Bankai thing, I don't. You're right, if I did use my Bankai on you it would be unfair, but I'm not going to use it. My Shikai should be strong enough for this test. The name of my Shikai is Katen Kyokutsu, now watch closely. Shunsui casually commented before shouting. When the flower wind rages, the flower god roars, when the wind of heaven rages, the god of the underworld sneers. What the hell? Naruto exclaimed as he looked on in confusion. A scant second later Naruto was blinded by an intense flash of light. When the light faded, Shunsui was standing before him and his Katen Kyokutsu has changed his original swords into a pair of huge, heavily curved, black Chinese scimitars with silver edges. The hilt and tsuba of each blade was still the same as they were in Katen Kyokutsu's sealed form, but they now sport long red tassels dangling from the end. Naruto had never seen such a thing before. I quit staring and concentrate, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, because I will come at you with intent to kill. The blonde swallowed nervously, a bead of sweat running down his face, as he boldly declared. I am not afraid. At this statement, Shunsui chuckled and began to move his blades into an attack stance. We shall see, now let us begin. The air suddenly grew thick with power, as Shunsui extended Katen Kyokutsu to each side before saying. I should warn you, the power of Katen Kyokutsu is to make children's games real. The Zanpakuto makes the rules and anyone who steps within the boundaries of its spiritual pressure is forced to play by those rules, including myself. And what are its rules? Naruto queried. Pretty basic actually, if you win you live, if you lose you die. Shunsui then began to rotate with both blades facing in opposite directions, creating large wind blades that were fired towards Naruto from Katen Kyokutsu. The wind blades joined together forming a spinning circle of wind, and if they struck would envelope Naruto with tornado-like intensity. The blonde Jinchuriki was not about to let that happen and went through a series of hand signs before thrusting his arms forward towards the oncoming attack. A powerful gust of wind erupted from his hands, indicating Naruto had unleashed his Repushu, gale wind palm technique, and it impacted Shinsui's spinning circle of wind with tremendous force, causing the two wind attacks to cancel each other out. However, before Gote Captain could formulate another attack, he suddenly found himself on the defensive, as Naruto had shushened over to his position and began attacking him with thrusts and slashes from his Zanpakuto. Interesting, he already knows a form of Shunpo, flash step, as well as wind attacks on this world. Let's see how strong and skilled he is with the Zanpakuto. Shunsui thought to himself, while dodging a strike from Naruto's blade. The two combatants circled and danced around each other with deadly grace, searching out openings, and littering each other with cuts that did not kill, but did bleed superficially. The sweet hum of blades slicing through the air, the sizzle and crackle, as each met with sparks flying, was almost like a musical concerto of their battle. After a while, the Gote captain was suitably impressed by his opponent's skill. Shunsui had well over a 100 years experience in the art of kenjutsu, but Naruto was matching him with every parry and stroke. It was evident that Naruto's 3 years of Black Ops and Hunter Nin missions had turned him into a deadly swordsman. Shunsui skillfully blocked Naruto's overhead swing with both of his blades. The force from the blow created a small crater under the Gote captain's feet. Shunsui swore he could feel his bones creak under the intense pressure and power of the attack, and realized that Naruto was channeling chakra into his sword arm to increase the strength of his strikes. The Gote captain knew he couldn't afford to make any mistakes against this opponent, as he shifted his swords to allow the powerhouse strike to slip off to the side and uselessly destroy the ground to his right. A large cloud of sand and dust billowed up from the blow, obscuring Naruto's vision, which allowed Shunsui to shunpo behind the former Leaf Junin. Thrusting one of his blades forward, Shunsui was hoping to end this fight quickly. However, he was surprised when Naruto grabbed the blade with his bare left hand and held it in place. Ignoring the searing pain from his hand, Naruto yanked the blade off course and in the process pulled the Goten captain in closer. Naruto then planted his left foot and pivoted to bring his Zanpakuto sword around to skewer his now vulnerable opponent through the chest. Shunsui knew he had a problem the moment that Naruto had grabbed onto one of his blades and began to pull. However, instead of fighting against the pull, he threw himself towards the direction he was being pulled in. Twisting his body to its fullest extent, the point of Naruto's blade barely missed, fatally striking the Goten captain, as he was able to bring his other sword around in the nick of time to parry Naruto's strike. Growling in frustration, Naruto then launched into a series of chakra-enhanced strikes, hoping to overwhelm his opponent once and for all by strength alone. For his part, the Goten captain had decided he had seen enough and now was the time for Naruto's true test to begin. After a few minutes, it seemed as though Naruto's strategy of simply overwhelming his foe by sheer brute force was working. As the fight progressed, Shunsui slowly but surely grew more and more sluggish and was merely on the defensive at this point. For every time the Goten captain attempted to go on the offensive, Naruto was able to dodge all of the attacks in an impressive show of agility and speed and sent back a few effective counter-attacks, littering Shunsui with several cuts along his chest and arms. Finally, the Goten captain was too slow to dodge, and with an anguished cry from his lips, Shunsui found Naruto's Zanpakuto embedded into his left shoulder blade, forcing the man to drop one of his scimitars onto the ground. As Shunsui fell to one knee with Naruto's blade still firmly buried into his shoulder, he precariously held his other scimitar blade up in a defensive position. Unfortunately, the pain in his shoulder was agonizing, as he swayed unsteadily on the ground before Naruto, who with one quick stroke knocked the remaining sword out of his opponent's hand, leaving the man now defenseless. It was then that the blonde Jinchuriki heard his foe gasp out in a labored breath. Finish it, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I told you the rules at the start: if you win you live, if you lose you die. You've won, I've lost, now strike me down and be done with it. Naruto ripped his Zanpakuto out of Shunsui's shoulder, causing the man to grunt in pain. Grabbing the hilt with both hands and raising it high above his head, it would only take a simple downstroke to cleave the Goten captain in two. Shunsui saw his foe raise his sword and gave a small grin to the blonde man before closing his eyes and await the final blow that would end his life. Suddenly, Naruto unleashed a monstrous roar and swung his Zanpakuto downwards. No. A few seconds later, Shunsui opened his eyes to see Naruto blade embedded in the sand next to him, while Naruto stood over him with his arms crossed and breathing heavily before he spat with anger and contempt. No, I'm not going to kill you. I've no reason to kill you. And if you bring up that bullshit about the rules of the game, I don't give a damn what the rules say. I'm not going to kill anyone just because a bunch of stupid rules say I have to. Shunsui smiled and quickly rose to his feet, surprising Naruto, who had believed only moments ago that the man was barely able to stay conscious. The blonde Jinchuriki watched as the wound he had inflicted onto his foe only minutes ago began healing itself at an astonishing rate. I congratulate you, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. You were the first to figure it out, the true meaning of the test, and only the second man to ever survive this trial. I have nothing more to teach you in this regard. Releasing Katen Kyokutsu and sheathing both of his blades once more, Shunsui saw the confused look now plastered on Naruto's face and chuckled before saying, "The test is over and showed yourself to be your own master, well done. You say I'm the first to pass this trial, but the second to survive it. Who was the first to survive? The first was the former owner of your Zanpakuto, Momoki Zabuza. For you see, Zabuza was able to show that he too was his own master, but could never figure out the second part of the test." Licking his wounds, and stretching, Naruto took careful note of what he was being told. You see, the opportunity was given for you to strike me down, yet you did not. Instead you spared me, and that befits a true warrior of justice, one that does not bring unnecessary bloodshed or blindly follow rules like an obedient lapdog. Looking away, he shook his head in disdain. Unfortunately, Zabuza loved any opportunity to commit unnecessary bloodshed, so when that opening always presented itself during the test, he was always taking it and thus failing the trial time and time again as a result. The Goten captain now surprised Naruto by offering the blonde his hand. If it wouldn't trouble you, I'd like to accompany you back to the world of the living, if not as a mentor then as an ally. Naruto eyed the hand warily, immediately on high alert. You mean you'd be willing to join me and my party and share in our goals? Shunsui nodded before stating, if they're worthy, then I would be honored to lend you my sword not only to you, but to your comrades as well. Besides, I've been cooped up on this island in this dimension for I don't know how long. And if I don't see a woman again soon, I'm going to go nuts. At this Naruto chuckled, taking the extended hand a moment later and shaking it firmly. Then welcome to Team Fox, Shunsui Kyoraku. No sooner had they shook hands when a portal opened behind Naruto, whilst another appeared behind Shinsui. The one by Naruto was black, while the one near Shinsui was the purest of white. Sensing the blonde's confusion, the straw hat-wearing captain provided an answer to Naruto's unspoken question, as he released Naruto's hand from his grip and said, the portal you see behind me is the return to old man Yama's place. The one behind you leads to the second trial. I will return to your comrades and inform them of our agreement. Shunsui then stepped one foot into the white, before turning around once more. I wish you luck in your second trial, Naruto. Then in a flash of white he was gone. The Jinchuriki sighed, as he looked to the black abyss. There would be no more delays. Every second he hesitated, would likely be another life lost in the land of snow. Well, here I go. Naruto shouted as he charged into the darkness once more while wondering what new trial was waiting for me on the other side. Meanwhile back in Konoha, Tsunade was fervently massaging her temples in an effort to relieve her mind from the horrid headache she had developed over the last 2 hours. Emissaries from both the Hyuga and Inuzuka clans had voiced the concerns so to speak with regards to their missing heirs. To further complicate matters, the Haruno family and the Yamanaka clan had also weighed in with their own worries with regards to their now missing children. And while they had at least been respectful enough to Tsunade to ask for the Hokage's help in finding them, the Hyuga and Inuzuka clans essentially demanded that Tsunade do something to ensure the return of their missing clan members. After listening to the shouts, demands, and squabbles that had erupted for over 2 hours, Tsunade's patience was gone. She ordered everyone to go home with an assurance from her that she would send out a search party consisting of 2 of her finest Junin shinobi to locate and bring home everyone's wayward family members. Grabbing her list of available Junin and scanning through it, Tsunade smiled as she came across 2 names that were available for duty. And considering whom all the missing shinobi were, these 2 would be perfect for the mission considering the relationships they had with all these AWOL nins. Writing the names down and giving them to a messenger, she wanted these shinobi in her office first thing in the morning. And with that taken care of, Tsunade began a frantic search for her sake, as nothing was a better remedy for a headache. At least in her opinion. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.